What if you could increase your revenue, cut your costs, boost your profitability, and do less of the tedious work that you already don't want to do? Well, Travis Easton of AI Demand Pro built a tool that does exactly that for litigation attorneys. Check out this episode where we talk about numbers and how this thing works, and why, if you're in PI field, for example, you should absolutely implement a tool like the one that his team has built, because it's going to be a game changer among many other game changers that will be coming into the industry as staples in the industry that will help you increase revenue, boost profitability, cut costs, eliminate some of the tedious work. Watch the episode, reach out to AI Demand Pro, see how they can help you improve your business. Google's ability to attract new clients is declining as more people are using ChatGPT. On October 9th, I'm going to do complimentary training where I will show you whether ChatGPT, Gemini, and Perplexity actually recommend your law firm. I will also give you a roadmap to either promote or defend you if you already have solid positions. Sign up for the webinar. The link is down below. Welcome to the Grow Law Podcast, where I get to interview people who are successful attorneys and AI tech entrepreneurs and so many others, and they get to share their stories and also share techniques. Specifically, when it comes to AI today, most people who use it properly will either reduce their costs, whether they know it or not, or increase their revenue. More often than not, they will know that they did that, or in the perfect world, they do both. And your product, AI Demand Pro, if I'm reading this correctly, can accomplish both at the same time.
That's correct. Yep, definitely.
So not making this a commercial for your product, but it should be, because I think the product is really cool, especially in its current iteration where it could potentially outperform what a human attorney could do based on some things that I've heard about it.
Yeah.
Do explain exactly what it does and how it benefits people who deploy it properly.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Sasha. I'm happy to be here. So I'm a lawyer. For those that don't know, me and my brothers have our own personal injury law firm. It's with my dad. He's semi-retired now, but with him, we have over 100 years of combined experience within the personal injury space. So we got a lot of years out there, and we developed this product, AI Demand Pro, for our firm because we saw kind of where our biggest headache and highest turnover position, where everything was getting slowed down, was at the demand stage. So we were really growing, we were bringing in more cases, but the holdup seemed to be, getting that demand out, getting it to the attorneys to review, getting a product that was quality to the attorneys to review. And unfortunately, we just couldn't keep up there. And so I ultimately thought, when AI started really having its boom, 2.5 years ago, hey, maybe this is something that we could do. And so I set out to go and try and create a product that could ultimately speed those things up for us. And so I started working with some tech team, and we built it, and we got a version that was very basic, had a lot of bugs, but then we worked through it, and we had our firms really start testing it and figuring out how can we make this better. And for over about the next year after that, we really tested it internally, continued developing it, rebuilt the infrastructure. And then from there, it's just been kind of off to the races. And so with the product we have now, I would say that it can write a demand better than most associate attorneys can write a demand. They probably could do it with enough iterations and enough time, get it to the point where it does it now. But the issue is that it does it in about 10 to 15 minutes on average. And so you can upload. So in essence, what our system does is you upload, records, bills, photos, police reports, expert safety reports, life care plans, surgery recs, whatever it might be. You upload all the records and bills that you would need, everything, all the documents you would need to analyze and summarize for a demand letter. And then put it into our system. And in, like I said, 10 to 15 minutes on average, it generates a fully polished demand letter that we can customize to each firm exactly how they want it to be.
Prior to deploying this, why was there such a challenge producing quality demand letters?
So at least at our firm, typically the typical hire was a college grad, English major or something like that, right? That did a lot of writing, knew how to write well, didn't really know much about the medicine. And so it's an entry level position. The pay isn't the highest. And it's usually people not knowing what they want to do when they get out of college, just looking for a job. And so we would spend 6 months training them on, okay, here's the medicine. These are the important things, and this is how you write a demand letter. And we would, spend that time. And by the time they got, decently good at it, they would usually move on. Because to be honest, it's just not a very fun job, right? You just think about it. You're just sitting there summarizing medical records all day into a Word document. Unless you just really love medicine or really love summarizing and writing, that gets pretty boring, and we recognize that, right? But it's until AI came along, it was a job that needed to be done. When I started out, it was a lot of the attorneys did it ourselves at our firm, and we did that forever. And then we realized, okay, like we could outsource this to a demand writing position, and that really sped things up, gave the attorneys a lot more time to focus on litigation and other things. And that was a great move that we did. But ultimately, trying to find people that would stick around, that would enjoy it, right? Most of the, I would say about half the people, they do it and they say, wow, this is cool. I don't want to do this job forever. But then they go back to law school, which is great, right? Which is, is awesome. And so we've had a lot of our staff have ended up going to law school from the demand writing position, which is great. And maybe they'll come back and work for us as lawyers. But as a business owner, it stinks when you spend that time, 6 months or 9 months or a year developing a person so that they can be productive and efficient and good at their job. And then they have to leave, right? And then you have to start over with another person. And so, it's made a huge difference. And so now the work product across the board at our firm is the same, right? And so we have, some really good associates and we have some younger associates that are learning and newer to PI. And so what this has done over the last year is at the demand stage, it's brought the level of those younger attorneys who are newer and younger and learning up to the level of our more seasoned attorneys. And so pretty much everybody across the board is bringing in similar figures now, at least in the pre-litigation stage, right? Which is kind of the stage of the demand, before, if it doesn't settle, you go into litigation thereafter. But so now everybody is contributing. And so we don't have this big, okay, which person did the demand? Okay, that's going to be a much lesser quality than if this demand writer and this attorney did it over here on this team. And so now we don't have that. Now everybody, because they're all using the software, it's all just creating an awesome product across the board. And so not only have we sent out twice as many demands, but we're also almost up double in revenue, which is just awesome for our firm.
How much time does it take a trained associate, not a demand writer, but a trained associate to write a demand letter?
I mean, to get a demand letter, right? It's probably a year or two, right? Realistically and it's not about writing a demand letter. It's more just about like all the issues, right?
Yep.
Like this case has this issue, this
Yep.
case has this issue. And so they come to the partners, when those issues arise, and we answer those questions for them. And then now they don't have to ask that question again. And when
So
I was a young attorney,
eliminated.
what's that?
All of
I mean, some of that, right? Sometimes you still have questions, but now the writing and the summarizing and having to know the medicine, that's pretty much all gone, right? In the sense of the AI is so good at picking out the things that demand writers and young attorneys often miss. Right. And even seasoned attorneys, right? Because, we all deal with, for PI, we all deal with necks and backs and, and knees and shoulders. But sometimes you get those weird cases, right? Where it's like a mold case and you don't really know what, all of the medical jargon that's, that the doctors are talking about deals with. When you have those really big cases, my brother, for example, had we had a really big mediation brief that he used the system on. It created a 20-page medical narrative summary for the mediation brief. It was a leg off case. And I mean, there's just, you don't have a ton of those cases. And so there was a lot of the medical jargon as they're dealing with the infections and, the amputation and stuff that even he probably would have missed and not known what it meant unless he spent the time to really Google every single, medical term. But as he's reading it, he's going, holy crap, like it pulled that out. And, that's important, right? And it kind of explains it in a way so that even the adjuster can understand what a bit, significant deal that is. And so it just, for everybody, it makes a huge difference. It really catches things that often we would miss or not think was that important. And then for the younger guys, especially, the writing is just impeccable. The way it flows, the way it puts together pain and suffering sections. And so with our system, you check a couple of boxes of, the most common things that happen to people when they're injured. And then we have a text box where they can write in their bullet points about, what really, stories or impact it
Mm-hmm.
had on their life. And when you include 4 to 5 bullet points, it's unbelievable some of these pain and suffering sections it writes, where it just really makes you feel so bad and sympathetic for the client and what they've went through. And some of these, they read like a John Grisham novel, not like a demand letter. Like, it really is unbelievable how well it writes it.
So it's worth noting that the AI has empathy.
I would say so, right? Like, I truly do think that, like, it does a better job, in my opinion, often, of being able to empathize with the client and tell their story in a way that will create very intense emotion by the reader about what this person has gone through.
Amazing. I'm super curious about this part. How much time is being saved per demand letter? Not the actual process of writing, but gathering all of this, reviewing all of this in preparation for writing the letter. Like, how much time is being saved per case?
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to differ based upon firms, right? Every firm handles their demand writing process a little differently, I would say some firms honestly just take a cover letter, say, here's the documents, here's the records and bills and police report, pay me X amount of dollars. And they just basically send a cover letter, right? Others do a very basic one. These are the injuries, kind of bullet point it with a little bit of stuff. And then others do a much more thorough, my dad trained us all, right? And as attorneys. And so when we started out, one of the biggest hallmarks that he taught us was the demand. The demand is a very important document, right? And for our firm, it sets up the rest of the case, right? Even if it doesn't settle, even if that adjuster doesn't read it, it's
Sure.
very important because adjusters remember things and they remember the quality of the work that you put forth. And so even if they skim it and they only point out a few things, they know when they see those firms that put a lot of time and effort into writing a really good demand letter, they know, okay, that's a very good attorney. That's a very good firm. They know how to try a case. They know how to litigate it, that type of thing. Whereas some of those other, the things that I mentioned, I think that they don't have as high a quality, unless they're a firm that just has a huge trial, presence and, they just know, but that's just how they do their demands, right? But often it ends up being that they just don't put together as good of a work product. So with that being said, everybody kind of does it differently. For our firm, what I'll say is because we put a lot of time into it, and when we were doing it primarily by humans, a smaller demand would take anywhere from 3 to 4 hours, right, to gather everything, summarize it, review it, and then have the attorney review it. Okay. Big cases we're talking thousands and thousands of pages of medical records that need to be summarized would take days. What our system can do that in now is on those smaller cases, it'll run it in less than 10 minutes, takes about 3 to 4 minutes, 5 minutes to upload everything, 10 minutes to generate, one read through by a demand writer, one read through by an attorney, and it's out the door basically. So it goes down to about a 25 to half hour process, right? And then on those bigger cases, I just ran one this week that I for another firm that's signing up. I think they had 5,000 or 6,000 pages of medical records, and it ran it in about 27 minutes. So you're talking about a case like that probably taking a couple of days, 2 to 3 days, I would estimate, for a demand writer to do it if they're doing a good job, right? If they're just kind of picking out things, then obviously they'll do it a little quicker. But if you're really, if you're trying to get a lot of money on that, you're really trying to figure out the case, understand it, so that if it doesn't settle and you go into litigation, you have a very good understanding of what's going on in your case. You're talking about days, and now we just basically did it for you in a half hour or less. And then, you read through it, change little things here and there, same process, go to the attorney. So it's about an hour and a half type of thing.
That's absolutely insane. And you also mentioned that since you implemented the system, your revenue on those cases, those that do not end up going into litigation, revenue on these cases has doubled.
So revenue is doubled in the sense of, because we're sending out twice as many demands, revenue has doubled, right? So I would say we are getting higher policy limit, more policy limit offers, higher offers on our non-policy limit cases. I can't say it's doubled, right? Like that, but where we've really grown it, right? Because we're a pretty reputable firm here in Southern California. And so we always did get pretty good results on our demands because we put a lot of time in. The problem was we couldn't get them out quick enough, right?
Got it.
We didn't want to sacrifice the work product. So we would make sure we sent out something very high quality before we sent it out. The problem was doing that by humans took too much time. And so by utilizing this process and having the combination of, we still have our demand writers in-house, they still check it, they upload everything, check it, and then it still goes to the attorney. It's still a very, very high work product. But like I explained, now the time is so much less that we can get to so many more cases, and we can send out cases and settle them much more quickly. So the plaintiffs, our clients aren't having to wait as long for their demands to go out, which just makes them happier. And because of that, because we're sending out so many more demands that are still a very high quality work product, we're not settling cases for less. We're probably settling them for a little bit more, but now because we've doubled the amount of demands we're sending out, we've basically doubled revenue, which is just huge for us.
This is super interesting. So your firm already wrote excellent quality demand letters for a firm that may not be as focused on quality of that product. This would definitely increase their revenue simply because the words that you write matter. Yeah. If they didn't, copywriters would not be making as much as they do in the advertising profession.
Yep, that's true.
If you can grab emotion out of the reader and cause them to take action, you're going to get better results than if you keep them in an emotionless state. They're not really engaged. And when we talked about empathy in your AI, that's the impact that you're looking out for.
Yep.
Super interesting. So now I want to think about the other side of it. And these are the numbers, right? So somebody may be watching this or listening to this, and they may be like, that's interesting. Makes your life a little bit easier. Cool. But I am thinking as a business guy, and I always care about business. I don't care about the processes for the sake of process because it's not important. I manage a business. I do not do the actual work that's involved in like doing the thing that the business delivers. So I think about it on the two sides of the equation. The one side is the cost cutting. If there is a decent volume that's involved, you just cut my costs. So when you look at most law firms, cost of service is between 40 and 50%, and 50% being very, very typical. So if you cut cost with this thing by 1%, which for most would seem like this is so insignificant, just 1%, but also you're a very typical law firm, you're not a typical law firm. You're excellent. Your net profit margin pre-tax is 20%, which is pretty high.
Yeah.
If your net profit margin, if you profit 20% at the year's end and you cut your cost by just 1%, and that 1% goes into your bottom line, you just increase your profitability by 5%.
Wow.
It is hard to get that 5% boost in your bottom line just because. And this is just because while you're simplifying your processes and improving quality of one of the products that you put out, and this is one of the main products that you put out before you go to trial, and many lawyers do not want to go to trial.
That's true. That's definitely true.
So that's why before we got to this interview, I wrote down 2 notes: revenue boost, profitability boost. And the third one was cost cutting, right? So cost cutting leads to profitability boost while quality of the demand letter improves revenue for those lawyers who do not want to invest the ungodly hours into writing.
Yep.
And most lawyers are not great copywriters. That's something that I learned about lawyers. You guys don't write that good.
We don't. We're not. A lot of us are not the best writers. That is 100% true.
So this thing does it for you while eliminating the need to do this. And if you have staff that does it, you can also reduce that staff, especially if you're a volume shop.
Yeah.
Right. If you do X number of cases per year, you may be like, I don't need that one extra associate. And thus I just saved $150,000 a year because I no longer need that associate.
There's kind of 2 ways when I talk to people, right? I never like the idea of like really telling people, hey, you can fire some of your staff, right? Like that, And so I always talk about repurposing, right? And, and every firm is going to do it differently. And it's sad, but it's definitely true that, I think with AI, a lot of middle staff, right, and 100%. Firms everywhere is going to get let go over the next 5 to 10 years. That's just the reality of how good it is, right? But at this point, what I tell people is, look, it depends on where your firm is at. There's firms that are in the growth stage, right? That they're spending a lot of money on advertising and they want to grow and they want more cases. Great. You are going to be able, you do that part of it. We will handle the demand stage for you. And because of that, you will not need to hire any additional people for demand writing with your current staff, right? Whereas if you doubled the amount of cases that you brought in, you would need twice as many demand writers of what you're currently doing. You will not need to do that. You will be able to handle everything that all the growth with what you are currently doing. So there, now you're same thing. You're doubling revenue likely, but your costs have not gone up, which is exactly to your point. Now, for the firms that are just happy, they're kind of stagnant, they have constant, steady income, from influx of cases and don't really care about growing. Great, right? That's awesome. You could potentially cut people. You could also repurpose them, right? And so what I mean by that is, if you have a medical clerk who's ordering the records and you have a demand writer, that person could probably do that one job now, right? If one of them has paralegal skills or one of them has more case manager skills, they could become a case manager and help you out in that department. And now one person could handle the upload process. There really is a lot of ways. The other thing is you don't need the best writer anymore to review these things. You don't need the best person. It's basically uploading and reviewing and just kind of making sure everything is there. Then you hand it off to the attorney. He looks through it and it's out the door. It really has become such a good product for us that it really is one read through by the demand writer, one read through by the attorney, and it's ready to go out the door. And that didn't used to be the case. Even when we wrote them by hand, when I was reviewing them, as one of the partners, probably take me 2 times. If it was a decent, mid-sized to bigger case, I'd read through it one day, kind of do everything. And then the next day to have a fresh eye, I'd read through it again, just make sure I didn't miss anything, see it from a different angle, give my mind kind of a day to kind of sit on it. And so that's, you don't need to do that anymore because you're so confident in the writing and the work product and how it grabbed everything that it's just basically checking to make sure everything looks good. There's not another angle you want to take and it's ready to go out the door. And so there's a lot of different ways that firms, right, depending on how they're made up, the structure, who they have in place, can change things around to cut costs like you're talking about, or not have to add additional team members on if they're in that growth stage, because this will handle basically all that growth for them. We had, give you one example, we had one firm sign up for 20 demands per month. In the first month of using it, one attorney ran 40 demands by himself. The second month, they ran 50. So it's just, and it really is just unbelievable. And he was still doing all of his other legal work, right? But the beauty of it was he could put 3 to 4 in at night, right before he went home from work. They can run simultaneously. Spent 30 minutes putting 3 or 4 cases in, go home for the night, hang out with the family, come back in the morning. He's got 3 to 4 cases ready to reviews them for an hour, does all of his legal work in the middle of the day. Next, into that day, puts in a couple more demands, and you just keep that cycle going. And so that's how I explain it to these people, is that this thing will work when you're at home, when you're at lunch, when you're on a call, it's doing its work. Whereas the old way of doing it and summarizing records all day, you have to be there summarizing records if you want to get it done. It's just completely different.
Or you take that work home.
Yeah, or you take the work home, right? Which then affects the family life.
So procedurally, you basically drag and drop those files and drop them into your system.
Mm-hmm.
The system will know what it's looking at.
Yep.
Process that information. Just like ChatGPT, if you take a picture, it will tell you what the picture is off. So right now, my wife and I are doing a small project. We're taking pictures of all of our grocery receipts because we decided that we spend too much time grocery shopping. But we don't know exactly what it is that we buy and how much of it we buy and how frequently we buy.
Okay.
So currently, we have a 30-day experiment that's currently running. We take pictures of all of our receipts, and ChatGPT knows exactly where we went shopping, exactly what we bought, at what quantity. And at the end of this experiment, we're going to have a perfect shopping list on a weekly basis.
I love it.
And then we're going to have those groceries delivered to us on the days that we want them delivered, that we'll never have to go grocery shopping ever again.
That's awesome. That's a really good idea.
It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot
saves
of time. My wife loves cooking.
Yeah.
1 month we went to different grocery stores 37 times. There could have been like four different grocery stores in one day.
That's crazy. Wow.
But that's crazy. And I'm like, look at the, we have kids. What are we doing? So obviously way less sophisticated, than what your system does, but the benefit is huge. And to those who may be thinking, like, I don't want to cut any staff, we're fine, this is what we do. I think in time, it's not today. Today, using an AI system like AI Demand Pro gives you a leg up over competition that does not. But soon enough, it's going to be the norm, not to do what it is that you were used to doing by hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as it becomes the norm, you're going to be at a competitive disadvantage if you don't adopt, if you will continue having humans do that. And what I think is going to happen, I don't know if it will, but it's likely to happen in the next 5 to 10 years, if not sooner. There will be a downward pressure on pricing for law firms because cost of delivering the service is going to significantly go down. And there will be law firms that will start productizing some of the services and advertising lower cost. Instead of 33%, they'll be like 30%, 29%, 28%, 25%, 24%.
Yeah.
Why? Because our profit margin is the same. We just automated so much of what used to be done by humans. Thus, we reduced the cost so much. We see it already in some of the practice areas. For example, for estate planning, there's now trustandwills.com. It's basically that. They're like, we'll do this for $300 or for $500. You can't do that with PI for $300 or $500, but with estate planning, you can go about 80% of the way for $300 to $500. And then you'll still hire an attorney to review this and make sure that it's done correctly and filed correctly if you need it, notarized, etc. But 80% of the way, $300 to $500.
Do it with AI.
That's it. So when the technology is right, early adapters get to benefit tremendously. And I, as a business guy and a marketing guy, I always think about if you save $1, you can put that dollar into getting another client.
Yeah.
Put that money into your growth, because those that grow bigger tend to sustain times of calamity. And I think right now we're not in times of calamity, but it will happen.
Yeah.
The AI tsunami is going to, like 10 years ago, common saying was technology eats world. Today there is AI technology, like that AI tsunami, pardon me. And the AI tsunami is going to change a lot of things for a lot of industries.
Yeah.
Law firms are not immune.
Oh no, I go to these conferences, every couple weeks, and pretty much, I would say 60 to 75% of the booths all have some sort of AI incorporated, right? A lot of them aren't really AI companies, but you can't sell a product in the legal space right now if you don't have AI in your name. And so they all have some sort of AI product, right? But at least a third to 40% of them are truly AI companies, I would say. It's just, it's a flood, right? And so everybody sees it. There's just so much automation, so much more efficiency that AI can provide to the services, to so many different components, right? It's not just demands. It's, pretty much every component within the legal space, apart from trying a case, taking the deposition and those types of things. But even you have tools now with AI to help in those processes, right? But you still have to be the human to do it, at least at this point.
At least at this point.
Yeah, at least at this point. But it's coming, right? I think you're spot on, right? I think that, your prediction could very well end up happening. But for now, firms can definitely benefit from getting the efficiency and not having that downward pressure on pricing and things like that. And you can, like us, double revenue. And the other thing is we own both products, so we don't do it. But for all firms, we provide a cost. And so whatever the cost is, depending on the subscription plan they sign up for, the firm, we provide them with a receipt for that specific demand that will say the case name, medical record summary / demand, and then whatever the cost is that they paid for that demand. And so then if they want to, they can pass that cost through as a case cost. And so then the firm gets reimbursed whatever they paid. And so in essence, this is costing the firm nothing. It's free, right? So you think about it, right? From a selling standpoint, you're going to double demands if you want to, right? If you have the caseload and you want to double demands, right? Or you can cut staff or repurpose them. Your demands will likely be much better. They're going to go out twice as fast, if not faster. And it doesn't cost you anything.
How difficult is it to adopt this technology, or is it just plug and
so
play?
The typical process is we provide the firms that want to sign, or that are interested, we give them a demo. I show them exactly how it works. I run a case live on the demo, show them how fast it is. walk them around. I show them the demand, right? What the demand looks like, the quality of it. Then I tell them, hey, I'll run a free demand for you. So then after the call, they send me one of their cases that's ready for a demand. We put it on their letterhead. We can usually turn that around in a couple of days. We set up a follow-up Zoom call to go over it, show them exactly what we created for them, send them that demand. And usually when people, when firms see that, the work product, how quickly it's done, all the features that we have, that's at that point they sign up, sign the contract. And then usually with, we, depending on how customized they want their template, right? We have kind of our Easton language that we use for our demands, which is pretty good. And I'd say, 75% of the firms, especially in California, end up just using ours.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but we tweak it here and there. It's obviously on their letterhead, right? But and then other firms want to, use their exact model, which we can match and which is perfect. And then sometimes we mix and match the two. But that's the process, right? We're customizing. We set up about 20 different demand templates as part of the onboarding process for them, so that in essence, they upload the documents, click submit. 10 to 15 minutes later, it's down, it's ready. They pick the version they want. And what I mean by that is, okay, do I want a third-party policy limit demand? Do I want a UIM policy limit demand? Do I want a UIM demand that's non-policy limits, right? Whatever it might be. They click that button, has all their language they know and love, click download, generates it as a Word document. They go in and review it, make their edits if there are any, and then it's ready to go out. And so that process, can take anywhere from a couple days, depending on how many edits we have to make to the template, to, less than a week. And then we set up another onboarding call. We get all of their team members on the call, make sure, everybody sees it. We run their first case with them, make sure that, all questions are answered. Everybody feels comfortable with it. And then they're off and running. And that's it. So basically it's about a week, right? From when they say, yep, let's do it. It's a week or less, we get them up and running. And then one of the biggest compliments and things I love hearing is when we do all of that and we show the team members, everybody's comment is, I don't have that many questions. It's so easy, right? Because we're actually PI attorneys and we put a lot of time and effort into making this a very simple product to use. It's not complicated. I mean, there's a lot of really cool things that go into it, but there's not like these crazy bells and whistles that you got to move all these things around and change all of this. It's just, It's a very simple product that does an amazing job and creates an amazing demand. And because of that, people don't have that many issues. Like you said, lawyers aren't often the best writers. They're also not very tech savvy. My oldest brother is my greatest example of that, right? Don't get me started on my dad, but he has an excuse. He was way before his time, right? But my oldest brother, he can work a computer and everything, but he has a lot of issues with technology.
Oh, how old is your oldest brother?
56.
Okay.
Or he'll, let's see. Yeah, he's 56. So yeah, he's 18 years older than me. So yeah. So, technology really boomed after he was, in his teenage years and stuff. So he also has an excuse. But anyways, I built it, we build it for him, right? He's in my mind of like, okay, Brian needs to be able to use this, right? Like a Brian type person, a lawyer needs to be able to use this. We need to make it as simple as possible. He does know. Yes, he knows 100%, right? So yeah, he's familiar. And if he can use it, the majority of people out there can use it, right? And so because of that, it
does
really
he know
is
that
very
you
simple.
say that if Brian can use it, anyone can use it?
Yep, I've told him. Yep, he's good with it. So he gets it. Yep. So
that is absolutely awesome. I know that you have another product that you're working on. Share what that
is. So we have a discovery platform coming out as well. So we have a lot of products, right? To be honest, that are coming out. We got a lot of things in the works. So in a couple of months here, we'll be unveiling a discovery platform as well. And what that will do is basically once you generate the demand, if your demand, if the case doesn't settle with the demand, that next stage is likely litigation where people take it. And so when you enter that litigation, you have to answer written discovery, which is typically the first part. And so what our system will do is it will take all the information from that demand that it's already gathered and automatically funnel that over to the discovery responses once you upload the questions. And it will give you rough draft responses for every single question that could be answered by what was in the demand, right? There's some things like, are you a felon? What's your driver's license number that wouldn't be in the demand letter? So those things you'll still have to answer, yourself, but all the medical questions. If you uploaded, loss of earnings and things like that, that will be answered. Prior medical condition, if you uploaded that, that will be answered. all of those things, right? Photos will be attached, etc. And so it's just going to make that next stage very easy. If you talk to most lawyers, like what do they hate the most about being a lawyer? There's a few things. Discovery is one of them, right? It's tedious, boring. You have to get it right. It's under penalty of perjury. So it's important, right? The demand is you can, you want to be honest, you want to do a great job, but that can never come into evidence at a trial or in discovery, right? And so it's not as high of a bar with discovery. It is a high bar, right? Because it is being done under penalty of perjury. So, as a lawyer, you got to always double check everything and make sure it's right. And so our platform is going to make that significantly easier for people. It's also going to utilize AI to give objections, right? You can just click a button and on every question, it will do objections that it thinks it should do. Basically AI objections. And then you can obviously change them and add more and stuff, but it'll make your life a whole lot simpler and quicker for that as well.
Yeah, I think the right conclusion here should be is that every repeatable process or almost every repeatable process can be automated. As these processes get automated, you can foresee, I mean, there's definitely writing on the wall that in some years, this industry will be half of what it is today, just headcount wise. It's just that simple. Like a successful law firm will not need that many associates, will not need that many partners unless they're generating new business. Because why? Like what used to take 10 hours will take 2 hours, and then 1 hour, and then 45 minutes, and at some point 30 minutes. So you just don't need that headcount. So the sooner that you adopt technology that actually works, the way that it's being advertised right now on this podcast, and I'm sure it works well. As soon as you see that technology adopted so that you are not subject to the devastating change that's probably going to come your way, because I think it's going to come down just like in every other service business. The name of the game is really leads. Yeah. Whoever controls the client flow, whoever controls the case flow, whoever gets more cases wins.
That is very true. You got to have those cases.
Because technology is going to automate so much of lawyer work.
Yeah. But I see it to your point, I see it as, the leads, right, are you have to bring in cases. If you don't bring in cases, we can't help you because you don't have cases to work up and for demands to do, right? So 100%, you have to have those leads, you have to have those cases. But by utilizing a product like this on your existing cases, like you're saying, you can cut costs. You can do it more efficiently. You can do it quicker. You can boost revenue quite significantly, which, like you said earlier, every dollar saved can go into a dollar, invested to get more cases. So you can get more leads. You can do more marketing with that extra revenue, which just then keeps the funnel going, right? It just keeps the circle going of, okay, we can invest that money into more leads, into more clients. And now we're growing. We don't have to bring on more staff to handle the extra cases. And then you're going to double, you're going to have that increased revenue and you can just funnel that back in. And so it really does create this kind of revolving door of just kind of keeping it going and growing until you're getting bigger and bigger if you do it the right way.
100%. I have an idea for you. Do you record your demos?
I do. Yeah.
You do?
Okay. Yeah.
Do you know where I'm going with this?
Would you like me to attach one to the case notes or something like that?
No, you can. That's an interesting idea. But what I think is going to happen, so we're looking at various technologies as well. We have built a lot of automation tools. We can call them AI or just automation tools that we're using for our production as.
Yes.
Marketing business is incredibly labor intensive. If you do it right, it's incredibly labor intensive. There's always that fight for an extra percentage cut in your production cost. It's hard to maintain it at 50% if you do it right. If you cut corners everywhere, your profit margin is going to be thicker, but then you're going to lose clients.
Your product will suffer.
Your product is going to suck. So here's one of the two greatest costs in marketing business is one, your account executives, your salespeople, people who do demos, people who talk to clients. Yeah. And your second greatest cost are your account managers. It's the frontline people who deal with clients day in, day out, day in, day out. So when you said that you personally still do demos, I know that there are AI tools that are being built that are sales reps. Wow. And soon enough, you're going to be able to train them by getting them to watch your video recordings. It's not there yet, but it's getting there.
Yeah. Wow. I haven't heard about that. That's exciting.
Upload all of those demos.
Yeah.
And then Travis doesn't need to actually do those. And
Wow.
another highly paid human will not need to do those because that AI is going to be intelligent enough to carry on. Today, an AI sales rep can handle a 10, 15, 20, in some extreme case, up to 40-minute long conversation. But the training is really cumbersome to get them to the point where they can actually carry on the conversation for 40 minutes. I can see how within the next 6, 12, 18, maybe 24 months, it will be just here, watch 12 of my videos, how I did this, learn, and then we're going to do a bunch of trials with you. So I can give you some course corrections, and then you're going to do it for me. And the humans who are going to interact, at some point, they're not going to care whether they're talking to Travis or Travis AI.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I had not, I had not heard about that as a future option. I mean, it makes total sense and no reason why it couldn't. But yeah, that would be super exciting because for sure that is one of your biggest costs is the salespeople for sure.
There will be continuous downward pressure on revenues for all service businesses. So you have to think about like, what are my major costs, right? That includes law firms, marketing companies, anybody that does professional services like this can be partially replaced. And then you look at like, what's most expensive? And then you're like, can I automate this?
Yeah.
Salespeople, production people, production people. That's such a huge part of your 50% of your service costs. It's huge. Yeah. Well, actually,
that is huge.
salespeople are on top of your service cost. That's another 10, 12%. So
yeah.
Great conversation. Do send me a video, a link to one of the videos where you do a demo. I think it would be fascinating to watch that. Love what you built. Good luck with your future endeavors. If somebody wanted to check out your website and see the product and sign up for a demo, what's the URL?
Yeah, demandpro.ai. So that will be our main website, and you can go there, sign up for a demo there. And I'm happy to show whoever wants to check it out.
Awesome. Travis Easton, thank you so much for sharing the insights and building such a cool tool.
Thanks, Sasha. It's great to be with you today. Really appreciate it. Have a great day.